Welcome back to our channel, the ultimate destination for coin collectors, enthusiasts, and anyone fascinated by the stories behind valuable coins, where today's incredible tale will leave you amazed and possibly inspire you to check your own coin collections with more attention than ever before. Because today we're diving deep into the legendary 1987 1-cent coin that, against all odds, has been known to fetch staggering amounts at auctions, sometimes even reaching as high as $7 million. Yes, you've heard that correctly, a humble penny, something most people wouldn't think twice about, transformed by a unique combination of minting errors, historical anomalies, and collector demand into a coin worth more than most luxury cars, houses, and perhaps even your lifetime earnings. So sit back as we unravel the fascinating and complex reasons behind the astronomical value of this specific 1987 penny, exploring in meticulous detail the errors, mistakes, minting defects, and quirks that make it such a treasure in the numismatic world, where even minor flaws can exponentially increase a coin's value. But in the case of this coin, the mistakes weren't minor at all. In fact, they represent a convergence of errors so rare and so profound that even seasoned collectors are left in awe when they come across one. Because the 1987 penny we're talking about isn't just valuable because of a single error, but because it combines multiple serious mistakes in a single strike, making it a perfect storm of minting mishaps. Now, to fully appreciate why this coin is worth millions, we need to go back to understand the basic minting process, where coins are produced using dies which stamp the design onto blank planchets under tremendous pressure, a process that is usually precise thanks to modern machinery. But despite technological advancements, mistakes still occur. And sometimes those mistakes slip past quality control unnoticed, resulting in error coins that collectors seek passionately. And in the case of the 1987 penny, the errors begin right from the planchet itself, as certain specimens were accidentally struck on the wrong planchet, a planchet meant for a dime or even a foreign coin, leading to a penny that's not just the wrong weight but also sometimes the wrong color or size, and when combined with other errors, like double striking, off-center striking, or the presence of die cracks, cuds, and even misaligned dies, the rarity multiplies exponentially. For instance, some 1987 pennies were double struck, meaning the die hit the coin twice, slightly shifted, leaving behind a ghost image that fascinates collectors. Others were struck off-center, resulting in an incomplete design, and yet more show broad strikes, where the coin wasn't properly held within the retaining collar during striking, causing it to spread outward like a pancake. But perhaps most intriguing are those with wrong planchet errors combined with die rotation errors, where the reverse and obverse don't align properly when flipped, adding yet another layer of rarity. And we haven't even touched on the dramatic die cracks that snake across Lincoln's face or the memorial building on the reverse, often referred to as lightning bolts by collectors, each adding uniqueness to these error coins. Furthermore, some rare 1987 pennies exhibit what's known as a retained cud, where a portion of the die breaks off but remains attached during the strike, leading to raised blobs or shapes on the coin, effectively creating a one-of-a-kind pattern, adding to the desirability. And then there are pennies that were struck using worn-out dies, resulting in extremely weak or ghostly design details, known as die deterioration doubling, which, although common, becomes significant when combined with the other more serious errors already mentioned, and of course, the color and composition matter too. Since some of these 1987 pennies were mistakenly struck on bronze planchets left over from earlier years, rather than the copper-plated zinc planchets standard for 1987, causing those coins to not only weigh slightly more but also exhibit a richer, darker hue, which further distinguishes them from their standard counterparts. And when a coin features errors of planchet, strike, die state, composition, and alignment all at once, it becomes a numismatic anomaly. Something so scarce and unprecedented that major collectors and even museums clamor to own it, which drives up its auction price astronomically. And this is precisely what happened with one particular 1987 penny that combined a wrong planchet, double strike, off-center strike, major die crack, die rotation, and a retained cud, creating the perfect storm of minting disasters that ironically turned into a multi-million-dollar jackpot for its lucky owner. with experts verifying that only a handful of such coins are known to exist, and those that do are tightly held by private collectors who understand their immense rarity and historical importance. After all, mistakes like these don't just happen every year, and certainly not in such dramatic combination on a single coin. But why would collectors pay millions for such a coin, you may ask? Well, in the world of coin collecting, rarity, demand, and condition dictate value, and when a coin is not just rare but essentially unique due to its layered minting mistakes, demand skyrockets among serious collectors willing to pay any price to own a piece of minting history, and the story behind that coin, the circumstances that led to its creation, only fuel its mystique and desirability further. And while most 1987 pennies are worth just their face value, the tiniest chance that you could hold in your hand one of these multi-million-dollar era coins keeps treasure hunters scouring their change every day, looking for telltale signs like unusual thickness, off-center designs, doubled images, strange cracks, rotated reverses, and unexpected colors, because any of those anomalies could hint at a jackpot waiting to be discovered. And considering the fact that the US Mint produces billions of coins annually, it's no surprise that a few flawed specimens slip through, but finding one is like winning the lottery, and those who do are thrust into the spotlight of the numismatic community. With their coins authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which examine the coins under high magnification and certify their authenticity, grade, and specific error types, all contributing to the coin's market value, and with such certification, collectors are assured that they're bidding on a genuine piece, leading to fierce competition at major auctions where bids can escalate quickly as collectors vie for ownership of a legendary coin. And the record-breaking $7 million sale of a 1987 penny wasn't an overnight phenomenon, but the result of decades of growing awareness about these ultra-rare error combinations, fueled by articles, auction results, and online forums where collectors share their finds and knowledge, further driving up demand and prices. And this coin, known to insiders as the $7 million penny, represents not just a minting error but a symbol of how something considered worthless by many can, under extraordinary circumstances, become priceless. And now, every time someone finds a 1987 penny in their pocket change, they examine it a little closer, hoping to spot that rare confluence of mistakes that could turn their ordinary day into an extraordinary one. And while most will only find standard coins, it only takes one person, one lucky moment, to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. So remember, every coin tells a story, but only a few tell stories worth $7 million, and that's why error coins, and especially the legendary 1987 penny with its unprecedented combination of wrong planchet, multiple striking errors, dramatic die cracks, rotational misalignment, and retained cud, are considered the crown jewels of the numismatic world, fascinating collectors and historians alike, providing a tangible link to the imperfect yet intriguing world of coin minting, where human error and mechanical malfunction combine to create something far more valuable than perfection ever could, making these flawed coins not just collectors' items but historical artifacts, each carrying the silent testimony of the day they slipped through the mint's rigorous quality control and began their unlikely journey toward becoming million-dollar legends. And with that, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of error coins, and who knows, perhaps the next time you find a penny in your change, you'll take a second look, because buried in its details could be the key to unimaginable wealth, hidden not in perfection, but in beautiful, serendipitous imperfection. Now let's move on to another astonishing story that continues to captivate coin collectors and treasure hunters around the world, and that is the saga of the 1988 1-cent coin, another seemingly ordinary penny that, due to a series of remarkable minting errors and oversights, has fetched up to $5 million at auctions, leaving many astonished that such value could ever be associated with a coin most people would overlook or dismiss as pocket change. Yet it is precisely that underestimation that has allowed these ultra-rare coins to remain hidden for years. And as we dive deeper into what makes the 1988 penny so valuable, it's important to understand that its journey to becoming a multi-million-dollar treasure is every bit as fascinating and complex as that of the legendary 1987 penny, But what sets the 1988 version apart is not just one defining error, but a combination of subtle yet significant mistakes that together make this coin an anomaly of extraordinary value, beginning with one of the most infamous varieties known as the 1988 reverse of 1989 penny, where due to a die mix-up at the mint, some 1988 pennies were struck using a reverse die intended for the following year, 1989, resulting in a distinct design difference that experts can identify by examining the details of the letters and Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Specifically the shape of the G and FG initials and the thickness of certain design elements, creating what's known as transitional errors, which are highly prized in the world of coin collecting, since transitional errors occur when a mint accidentally uses dies from a different year, causing design mismatches. And while such mistakes might sound minor to the casual observer, in numismatics they are monumental, representing rare moments where the mint's strict production processes failed in very specific and traceable ways. And when combined with other errors such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, or coins struck on incorrect planchets, the value escalates dramatically, as is the case with the 1988 penny, because some of these transitional error coins were also struck on leftover bronze planchets from previous years, adding both historical and material rarity, since by 1988 pennies were officially being struck on copper-plated zinc planchets. But due to inventory mix-ups or mismanagement, a few bronze planchets remained in the production line, leading to heavier coins that not only feel different but sound distinct when dropped, an indicator that experienced collectors know how to recognize, and this metallurgical anomaly alone would make such a coin valuable. But paired with the reverse die mismatch, the error becomes exponentially more significant, and if that weren't enough, some of these 1988 pennies also show dramatic die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or the memorial, effectively adding a unique identifier to each error specimen, meaning that no two error coins are exactly alike, and uniqueness in the coin world directly correlates to collector demand and price. Furthermore, reports have surfaced of double-struck 1988 transitional error pennies, where the coin was struck twice in the press, resulting in ghost-like duplications of Lincoln's image or the date itself, further enhancing the desirability of such coins. And when authenticated and certified by professional grading services, these coins instantly become headline makers in auction circles, often accompanied by intense bidding wars that drive prices into the millions, as seen in the case of the most famous 1988 penny, which combined the reverse of 1989 error with a bronze planchet, dramatic die cracks, and a slight off-center strike, culminating in a sale price of $5 million. And this wasn't just about rarity, but also about condition. Since the highest grades command the highest prices, with this specific coin being found in near-mint condition, having been tucked away in a collection for decades before its discovery, astonishing experts who rarely see such error combinations preserved so well, leading to its record-breaking sale price and further fueling the legend of the 1988 penny, a coin that now joins the pantheon of modern numismatic treasures, and much like its 1987 counterpart, its value rests not just in metal content or historical importance, but in the sheer improbability of its creation, representing a cascade of minting oversights and errors that came together in perfect, profitable harmony, creating a tangible piece of history whose value is only expected to rise in years to come as collectors seek out these error coins with increasing fervor, scouring their change and collections for any hint of a transitional design, a heavier than normal weight, a misaligned strike, or a telltale die crack that might indicate the presence of one of these million-dollar mistakes. Because while most 1988 pennies remain worth a single cent, the mere existence of such errors ensures that hope remains alive for collectors everywhere, and every coin examined carries with it the potential of a life-changing discovery, a reminder that in the world of numismatics, perfection is commonplace, but imperfection is priceless, and that is why the 1988 1-cent coin, when struck with these rare errors, can and has fetched up to $5 million, securing its place in history as one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. Now, when we talk about both the 1987 and 1988 1-cent coins together, What truly sets them apart from ordinary pennies isn't just a single error or mistake, but a layering of different and highly significant minting mishaps that rarely coincide on the same coin. And this is why both coins, despite being from consecutive years, hold parallel legends in the numismatic community. Where rarity isn't simply about how many were minted but about how few possess this extraordinary and accidental blend of production flaws. And so, continuing our deep dive, let's examine how the errors and mistakes across both years amplify each coin's value, beginning again with the 1987 penny, whose errors start not only at the moment the blank planchet was fed into the coining press but even earlier in the planchet preparation process itself. As some planchets were mistakenly drawn from stocks meant for other denominations or foreign coinage, leading to anomalies in weight and color, with some planchets composed of bronze rather than copper-plated zinc, which would have been the correct material for 1987, making them heavier and visually distinct. And when those off-metal planchets proceeded to the next stage of minting, that's where things spiraled into further error. Because not only were these incorrect blanks struck into cents, but many were also affected by misaligned dies, resulting in off-center strikes where Lincoln's face is partly missing or the date is positioned near the rim. A striking visual clue that immediately signals to collectors that something unusual has occurred. But perhaps even more fascinating were the double strikes reported among these 1987 era coins, where after the first impression of the die, the coin shifted slightly and was struck a second time, resulting in a layered, ghostly image of Lincoln's portrait or the memorial building on the reverse, amplifying the uniqueness of each specimen. And these double strikes weren't always perfectly aligned, leading to overlapping dates, distorted images, or multiple impressions of letters, known as doubled dies, which are incredibly sought after. And as if that wasn't enough, many of these coins also bore dramatic die cracks, physical evidence of aging or broken dies at the mint, creating raised lines or protrusions that sometimes snake dramatically across the coin's surface, adding yet another layer of individuality. And with retained cuds appearing in certain specimens, where pieces of the die broke off but stayed in place during striking, raised areas resembling blobs or unusual shapes emerged on the coin's surface, effectively making every such era coin a one-of-a-kind artifact. And to top it off, a certain subset of these 1987 pennies suffered from die rotation errors, where the obverse and reverse designs failed to align correctly when flipped. A mistake that often fascinates collectors due to its visual oddity. So when we tally up all these errors on a single coin, the wrong planchet, off-center strike, double strike, die cracks, retained cud, and rotated dies, what we have is not merely a flawed coin but an accidental masterpiece, a perfect storm of production failures which, paradoxically, transformed a common penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Now switching focus to the 1988 penny, its story too is layered in minting mistakes that cumulatively create a rarity. Starting with the infamous reverse of 1989 transitional error, where, due to an accidental switch in reverse dies, some 1988 pennies bear design elements intended for the next year's coins, identifiable by subtle features like the shape of the FG initials and the sharpness of the memorial columns, small but critical distinctions that only specialists could spot initially. But as awareness of this mistake spread, collectors began actively searching for these varieties, dramatically increasing their desirability, and complicating matters further. Some of these transitional error pennies were struck on leftover bronze planchets, adding both a metallurgical and historical anomaly into the mix, since 1988 pennies should have been struck on zinc planchets, but due to inventory oversight, older bronze blanks remained in the system, leading to a mismatch that collectors prize. And this metallurgical error, when combined with the reverse die anomaly, exponentially raises the scarcity of such coins. But the errors didn't stop there, as certain 1988 specimens also exhibited classic doubled dies, with prominent doubling seen in Lincoln's ear, lettering, and the memorial's features, an error that, even on its own, significantly increases value. And then there were those coins struck slightly off-center, where part of the design is clipped or misaligned, easily catching the eye of even novice collectors, further enhancing rarity, and adding to this complex picture. Many 1988 transitional pennies showed die cracks across Lincoln's portrait or reverse details, physical proof of failing equipment during production, which ironically makes the coin more desirable, since collectors view such imperfections as markers of authenticity and rarity. And in some cases, these die cracks are so prominent they earn nicknames within the collector community. And when multiple such errors appear together on a single coin, for instance, transitional reverse, wrong planchet, doubled die cracks, and off-center strike, the coin transcends ordinary value calculations, becoming a legendary specimen that collectors will pay millions to own, which explains how a certain 1988 penny bearing precisely that combination fetched $5 million at auction, and the grading process for these coins further cements their value, since top-tier grading services like PCGS or NGC meticulously authenticate each error, categorizing and labeling the coin in detailed, professional encapsulations that collectors trust, and when a coin is graded at high mint state levels, despite its errors, meaning it was preserved in excellent condition from the moment of minting, its value multiplies, because condition always matters in numismatics, even when discussing error coins, so the interplay of error complexity and physical preservation forms the bedrock of these pennies' astronomical values, and both the 1987 and 1988 cents share another intriguing factor. Their stories continue to evolve as new discoveries surface, since error coins, unlike regular mintages, sometimes remain hidden for years, nestled in old collections, or sitting unnoticed in jars of loose change, until a keen-eyed collector spots the subtle signs that distinguish them from ordinary pennies, sparking excitement and often leading to record-breaking sales. And every such discovery rekindles interest in these coins, pulling more enthusiasts into the search, as each person hopes to find that one copper treasure which could change their fortunes forever. And while these coins owe their existence to human oversight and mechanical failure, their current status as coveted collectibles is entirely due to their scarcity, their layered and dramatic minting mistakes, and their almost mythical narratives, which capture the imagination of collectors and investors alike, creating legends in the world of coin collecting where imperfection, rather than flawlessness, becomes the ultimate key to unimaginable worth. And that's why both the 1987 penny, sometimes called the $7 million penny, and the 1988 penny, known for its $5 million auction record, are regarded not just as error coins but as historical marvels, standing as proof that even the smallest coin, in the right circumstances, can carry a story worth millions.